So, what is Buddha? What is Buddha nature? What is God? What is Brahman? What is the absolute? This is a deep question. Be careful. You might fall in. You might fall into the emptiness. Isn't that interesting? You might become one with the emptiness. Be careful. Be very careful. It feels like death. It's not, of course, but it feels like it. The toes contract, the body contracts, the ego contracts, everything contracts. Until everything opens, especially the heart breaks open. So don't stop in the contraction. Jump all the way where everything breaks open, especially the heart, and all those opinions and ideas crack like eggshells. You make this beautiful ambrosia omelet. Don't stop too soon. Don't cling onto the cliff. Yeah. So, what is Buddha? You know, one answer to that question is no self. Buddha is no self. But you have to, just like you're standing on the edge, you have to jump all the way into no self. You can't cling to the sides of my favorite self, whatever self that is. You know, other names for self are the thinker, the feeler, the achiever, the perfectionist, the social justice warrior, the savior. All these are just names for self. Don't cling to one like you're clinging to a rock on the edge of the cliff. Jump into the abyss. No self means no self. No hidden selves. No favorite selves. No false selves. What part of no self do we fail to understand? Well, the parts that we're really attached to, addicted to, and the parts that are hidden that we can't fucking see yet. Those are the selves that we cling to, like clinging to the moss on the edge of the cliff, not wanting to jump into the abyss. Well, you either jump or you don't jump. There's no half jumps. You either succeed, as Nelson Mandela said, or you learn. You learn where you're stuck and you get unstuck, just like Chinese medicine. You know, this evolved over thousands of years, this Chinese medicine poking little spears in the whole house of the body, the psyche, to liberate the energy that's stuck and causing the disease. You know, my favorite acupuncturist who studied in China and studied Tibetan Buddhism and is one of my students, and joined the circus at a very young age and toured the world. There's a crazy guy, my kind of guy. He told me the story that the Chinese medicine evolved out of an imperial age where they used to have to go purify the houses of the ghosts and the evil spirits. And they would go into a house, these big warriors dressed in their armor with their spears and their swords, and they'd poke and be fierce. They would exorcise the demons out of the corners in the ceiling by fiercely challenging them and poking spears into them. Isn't that great? And that evolved into all the meridians in the body. And that whole body of knowledge, trial and error, that evolved over thousands of years into this system of healing, Taoism. So this no self involves healing and chasing out the demons and the evil spirits and the unhelpful spirits. It involves bringing what's unconscious into consciousness. And it's a little more complicated today because the demons and the evil spirits have become hidden in the unconscious. So we have to dig them out. We have to heal them. We have to repair them. We have to have a healthy self. If you don't have a healthy self and you get rid of the self, or get rid of the notion of self, or the whole illusion of self collapses like a deck of cards, then you're left with all the hidden selves that are disgusting and evil, or seem so. Isn't that interesting? That's why it's so important to do shadow work before you wake up. Because the windows and the doors that you have to go through, look through, to find your hidden shadows, your disowned selves, when that house of cards collapses, you lose the capacity to reach the demons, to see them, so that you can heal them or exorcise them. That's why it's so important to do shadow work and dig all that nasty stuff out before you practice enough to awaken. Not that many of us are in danger of awakening. That would require something like a 3-year Tibetan retreat where you'd focus on nothing but that. Or, 100 or so 7-day Zen retreats, or a monastery, a couple years in a monastery. So unless you're intending to run out or halfway through such a project, you're probably, the odds against you awakening quickly are pretty slim. Better odds in winning the lottery. So what is Buddha? Well, Buddha, there's a gross body of the Buddha. It's the physical body of Siddhartha Gautama. There's a subtle body of the Buddha, and that's the impact his living and awakening has had karmically. His awakening is present right now, just like Christ's awakening, or Moses bringing back the 10 Commandments, or any of the great religious heroes who, to their great dismay, religions were formed around them. Can you imagine what Christ would say if he looked at the Christians? Or what Jung would say if he looked at all these Jungians? Or what Ken Wilber says when he looked at all these integral zealots? I didn't get to ask Jung, I didn't get to ask Christ, but I've had this conversation with Ken Wilber, and we just laughed our asses off. Because you know what he told me? He says, well, what do you think Christ would say about all these Christians? Need I say more? Get the joke. Yeah, what was ironic was when he told me that, I was still pretty much an integral zealot. I hadn't let go of my attachment to that. I had an agenda to save the world with integral theory. Hadn't quite been able to release that yet, let that go. So part of it was hilarious and part of it wasn't funny at all. What is Buddha? What is nothing? What is the awareness that opens like the empty sky when you finally jump into the abyss and experience directly no self, no self, no challenger, no perfectionist, no peacemaker, no thinker, no feeler, no storyteller. Oh my God, did I say no storyteller? Who would I be without my storyteller? Well, I'd be a lot quieter. Instead of you all trying to figure out what the hell I'm talking about, it would be more like when we were just sitting in silence. Wasn't that lovely? Haven't we degraded since then? So whatever you do, don't believe anything I say.